Hello, my name is Brant Hunt, and my channel is Discerning What is True on YouTube and on Odyssey, and also is being shared live also today on Facebook. That is my Facebook, Brant Hunt. And today we're going to be talking with Phil Langdon. It's a little later than normal, but better late than not at all, right? And so I'm gonna let Phil Langdon introduce himself. Phil, tell us a little bit more about what you've written, why you talk about the ascension in your life, and whatever else you want to share.
Okay, hi everyone. My name's Phil Langdon. I'm from London. I'm 53. I had a spiritual ascension 9 years ago in December 2014. I've been writing about it ever since and kind of trying to perfect what I'm writing about it. It's a very, very tricky subject. It's very specific. And the recent book I've put out called Heaven is a Cloud is my best work. It's my favorite product, as it were. So I've put a lot of effort into it, and I'm still adding bits to it as we speak. So I added something this morning, funnily enough, about Jesus and the sword and not bringing peace and all that sort of thing. I thought it was important to put in because it's a very big issue with Christianity. You know, when people read the scriptures, they wonder what they're being told sometimes.
Right.
It's quite cryptic. There's lots of cryptic words and phrases and ideas in there. That I try to elucidate on, let's say.
Okay. So I was just talking with Phil here offline here, and then we're talking now. When I was going to seminary, I bought a few of these books, and I still have them because for reference for myself. But as I was taking a systematic theology class in my first year there, a professor, was actually the dean of the school, was actually teaching at that point, and we were going through what we called, the heretics, the ones who were not. I can find the page here where I was at, and so what happened was simply is that you're as a student there, you're assuming that the professor knows his stuff, which he does. I'm not saying he doesn't, but he doesn't know the truth. He just knows his stuff. He knows what he's been taught. So what's happened simply is there were certain people who were that didn't go along with the show, so to speak, during this whole thing that took place approximately, probably 1900 years, maybe 2,000 years ago. And there was a guy named Marcion, Marcion. And I'm trying to find the thing simply as I shared it, I think, the other day on my Facebook page here. And I guess I failed to mark it on my book here. But what it is simply is he never denied the divinity of Jesus, but he denied the humanity of Jesus. And that got him in trouble.
Right.
And see, because that's a no-no, and no-nos are on both sides here. So in other words, they have basically, you look at Jesus being the divine, and you also look at Jesus being the human being, and if you choose to pick one or the other, you're a heretic. So Marcion, I wanted to read something real quick here for others to actually know who this guy is. Because a lot of people don't know who he is. It's called Marcionism. At one time, the particular church that he was at, he created, it was the largest church ever at that early part of Christianity at that time. I don't know if people recognize that or not, but that's what it was about.
Yeah.
And you can't let someone, if you got the show to go on here with those that try to keep the people from knowing the truth, you can't allow someone else to speak out too much, or else we can't allow that. We've got to get rid of this guy. So this is so anyway, I'm getting off saying things, but he was a Christian theologian, he was an evangelist, and he was an important figure in early Christianity. He was the son of a bishop in Sinope, And about the middle of the 2nd century, from 140 to 155, he traveled to Rome, where he joined the Syrian Gnostic Cerdo, C-E-R-D-O. Marcion preached that the benevolent God of the gospel, who sent Jesus Christ into the world as the Savior, was the true supreme being, different and opposed to the malevolent Demiurge, or creative God, identified with the Hebrew God of the Old Testament. He considered himself a follower of Paul the Apostle, whom he believed to have been the only true apostle of Jesus Christ. Anyway, my point here is simply that there were those who spoke out, but they were immediately cut off from not only from the church, but some bad things do happen to people. Now, I don't know. He was declared a heretic. We don't hear much more from him. So basically, his writings and all that stuff like that nature have been probably either gutted or destroyed, so to speak. So again, I'm just rambling here, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of certain things that are going on, because we accept everything, as I did as a student at 40 years old, accepting this because it was a Presbyterian seminary. And he was, he's qualified, he's done his da-da-da, da-da-da, and we have a whole huge book going through all this stuff. And I don't question it at all at that point until I get into an early church history class in seminary there, same seminary, and realize something's wrong. And part of that, I think I've shared with Phil here, is to do with Augustine and what he created. But we're not going to talk about that because that's all theology. What we're talking about today is what I would call looking at the Bible, because the Bible itself does have truth in it. And the key is simply we don't know what to look for in those things. And it's key that we will actually try to look for those things. And maybe one of those things that I shared with Phil here was that Paul himself had some type of experience when he went to Damascus. Now, that may be literal. I don't know. It may be figurative. But Paul wasn't what I call in the end, on the end, so to speak, with this group also. So what I'm trying to share with you is to critically understand that there were others out there who saw that there wasn't truth in this particular movement that was taking place. So, and Phil wants to add something here, so I'll let Phil add something here if you like.
It was in terms of Damascus. I'm just trying to find the exact portion in 2 Kings. We have a story about Elijah. Excuse me.
Sure.
Let me just find the key bit.
Okay.
Because it involves the understanding of the word Damascus, which you mentioned in terms of Paul.
Right.
There. Hang on 2 seconds. I think it's in this bit. No, that's the funny bit. It's talking about 50 men, and people don't realize it. No, Elijah and Elisha, do not send them, but they persisted until he was too embarrassed to refuse. So he said, send them, and they sent 50 men. 50 men is the letter nun in Hebrew. It's the number 50. Right. So it's very cryptic, this little section. I think it's the first 3 chapters of 2 Kings. It's a bit longer than that. But the thing with Elijah that reveals what's going on with Paul to some extent is that Elijah is on a mountain. Okay. And I'm just trying to find the best place to start.
Okay.
Hang on 2 seconds. I can't remember where it is, to be honest.
Okay. I can't remember when I had this booklet here a second, so we're both having amnesia today.
I'm just trying to find the exact spot to start. You see, it's strange. I don't seem to be able to find it. How funny.
Did you look under the back in your look under Damascus and see what was showing in the Bible?
I think it's easier if I just quickly look online. If I just grab it,
Okay, no problem.
I won't be a sec.
No problem.
Elijah. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's 1 Kings. Look.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, so it's 1 Kings. Right, where have I highlighted it? It's quite far in.
Okay.
Elijah, okay. And the widow. Right, I think it's going to be Elijah on Mount Carmel, which is in chapter 18.
Okay. 1 Kings.
Yeah, 1 Kings. Is it there? Ah, here we go. Here we go. It's okay. 19. The Lord appears to Elijah. Okay. So it's 1 Kings 19. And it's the second portion. The Lord appears to Elijah. Okay, I want to get to the point where he's on the mountainside. Here we go. Here we go. This is it. Yeah. Verse 11.
Okay.
I'll read it out.
Okay.
So it says, the Lord said, go out and stand on the mountain in the presence of the Lord, for the Lord is about to pass by. Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountains apart and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake came a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a gentle whisper. Then Elijah heard it. When Elijah heard it, rather, he pulled his cloak over his face and went out and stood at the mouth of the cave. Then a voice said to him, what are you doing here, Elijah? He replied, I've been very zealous for the Lord God Almighty. The Israelites have rejected your covenant, torn down your altars, and put your prophets to death with the sword. I'm the only one left, and now they're trying to kill me too. The Lord said to him, go back the way you came and go to the desert of Damascus.
Interesting. I use the word wilderness in this particular book, but that's where that's where Paul went, and I think not Paul, where Jesus went. Am I right? With the wilderness?
Yeah, we can talk about that in a second. There's okay. a fair bit to say about that, but I don't know whether anyone listening or is going to listen in the future recognizes the elements in this.
Yes, they're already in here. The earthquake, the winds. The wind is definitely air sign, I assume.
Yeah,
and the earthquake is naturally the earth sign, and it also
right.
speaks of fire. The earthquake is a fire, so there's also that element's there. So whereas the only one that's not I see here yet is water. So I'm trying to find it.
That's right. You won't find it.
Okay. So there's 3 out of 4 there.
You won't. So all we have to do is look up the meaning of the word Damascus. Okay. And it means a well-watered land.
Ah. So there's where the water is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you have here is a cryptic way of describing the concept that what you're doing is making the 5th element when you ascend.
Right. Now I understand. See, I see what you're saying. So, wow. You always point to the Old Testament, always talking about the elements, and people are not aware of this, which are the 4 elements. You know, you have air, water, fire, and you have earth. Yeah. And so, and each one you see here, you hear of earthquakes. You hear that also in Revelations. You also hear fire. You also hear what you call, hurricanes. I don't know if there's hurricanes in it, such and such, but there's wind, such and such. And all of these are and talking about, in a lot of ways, simply is the four elements.
Yeah.
And that would be what you call, would it not also, I'm going to say this real quick, you tell me if I'm wrong, but it's basically in some way square in the circle.
Yes, effectively, it is a square. The four elements
Right.
represent the square as
Right.
well. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you go up in a pyramid, just like we're talking off air, just like the A, you see, is a symbol of the pyramid also. That is the first letter in the alphabet.
Yeah.
With the capital A. And it actually, and the funny thing, the A does have what I call a cross in the middle of it. So I don't know if that's something is key also to be pointed out in the letter A.
Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah, because as a triangle, the letter A is also a triangle.
Right.
If you have a cross in it, you have the 1, 0, and infinity of metaphysics, which is the process that uses life as its process to go from ignorance to enlightenment. That's the process in life that we're using life for, supposedly.
Right.
Yeah, and of course, you end up with the fifth element, which is the Son of God, and you are anointed. So
right.
you square the circle of the four elements, and you become one with the fifth element.
Correct. And it's
So
also when you do that, you ascend. That is when you ascend up the triangle.
Right. So, and it says Elijah ascends into heaven in a whirlwind, but really, that's it's very easy to misinterpret these words. If we know that's ascension, we know they're talking about the whipping up into light speed.
Right.
Because the condition that holds the Son of God is
yeah,
cloud.
because that would mean simply is that what's his name? Gerald Massey says simply is that he stated that basically Paul went through what he called a trance. I don't know if that's a lack of a better word, but that's what happened to you.
Yes,
in a way.
Very much so. It's called the sacred trance. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sacred because you're not being hypnotized by somebody in the trance.
Right. There's no one outside, so to speak. Someone, like, we're going to put you in a trance, and the next thing you know, someone's in a trance being done by a guy who is teaches those arts of what I call manipulating people into a trance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with that. So you're not being manipulated in this trance. Therefore, it's sacred, and it's the trance that brings you in touch with God.
Right.
Directly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Again, what I think I need to do, I think the good thing would be maybe with my own self-study would be simply go into the Bible here and just basically look for the word earthquake and look for the word, fire, water, whatever, and see what is taking place with these stories, especially in the Old Testament.
Yeah, there's a link with Damascus being the last issue, the last element that's mentioned, of course.
Right.
The abyss, the expansion of the abyss, because it's referred to as a bottomless ocean. It's a dry ocean, but it's still referred to as a bottomless ocean. And it has a lot to do with water, because the cloud of heaven, which is the Son of God, is a cloud, and clouds are normally made of water vapor. And the idea of it is that if you spread all that water out as a vapor throughout the infinite abyss, but then suck it all together and bring it all into one mass, you will have the cloud of heaven. So it's a gathering of infinite waters, and of course, when the abyss expands, when you fly up with the abyss, that is a great flood.
Yes. Yes.
That's referred to as the Great Flood. It's very, very cryptic in Genesis. I'm going to go through Genesis. I'm just sort of prepping to go through a lot of biblical stuff anyway in another book. But it's the same principle, and it's heavily cryptic. It's very easy to go off track without if you don't know what they're talking about, you can start making things up. And people have written books about interpreting Elijah as being abducted by aliens.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with that,
No. But I think what you're doing is, in this way, is a very basic thing to show that the Bible is been written to reveal something deeper, and we don't know. Is this God inspired? That's a word you could ask simply. Is this godly? God did He inspire it? Because it's not. People are looking at it literally. So they're not
Right.
seeing anything, what we call, lack of a better word, non-literal or esoteric in some way. That
Yeah.
there's a secret. And someone said on my couple weeks ago, maybe less than that, said that what is the word he used? Um, oh, he he used I know what it is. Oh shoot. I know what he's speaking of. Simply, he's saying simply riddles, riddles. He said,
Yeah.
which is what it is.
Yeah.
Scripture is in riddles.
It's an ancient way of trying to be specific.
Right. Yes, and that's he spoke of that, and I remember when you said something about it. Many times we meet here, you spoke about this early on. I think you said it's in riddles. You see,
Yeah.
and it's not meant to be seen by everyone. It's only
Right.
meant to be seen by those who actually have the desire for the truth. It's pursuing these things, and so I believe
Yeah.
that God's Spirit, such and such. I was talking. I thought of a logical perspective the other day. Kind of spells out to me, and I'm looking at it different than you are, Phil. So you can correct me. Why would God send a man or create a man to save the world? Because in reality, God is spirit. Why would he actually, and I say this simply, he would, and this might be not a good word, but stoop to mankind and create a man such and such as Jesus to quote unquote to save his people? Because that's not logical to me. Because in reality, God is spirit. He speaks through spirit. And why would you have to send God? Why would you have to create a man? That would be an idea from man himself to create a savior. You see? You see what I'm saying? So it'd be like, man, it's like me and you getting together. It's like, let's create a guy. Let's, make him and such, and let's make him a persona. And let's create this guy named Jesus, such and such. And he has these abilities and he does these miracles. He turns water into wine, all these type of things, such and such. And what happens simply is he's going to die on the cross for you and such. And people take that literally, which is in reality is what they want you to do. That is,
it's a low level, definitely a low level interpretation.
Right.
That's the problem. The semantics are okay.
Right.
All the semantics I hear from Christianity are fine. It's the interpretation behind them that's not quite right sometimes.
Yeah, well, there's another one simply is that, for example, someone asked me last night after I got off was that, is there a hell? No, there's no hell. Why would God choose to send anybody to hell?
It's not God. It's not God who sends people anywhere. God is God.
No.
God doesn't do anything in those terms. It's people who do things to themselves. And
Right.
if there's a
Go
thing
ahead.
about the human body when you die, if somebody has no inclination towards spiritual anything, they stick to their body, but their body is dead, so they experience the decay of their own body. And it seems to become interpreted in terms of a personal sort of hell. And a lot of people experience hell momentarily in near-death experience.
Yes.
They experience this despondency. There's all sorts of aspects to it, which is basically like a personal dream in a way.
Yeah. What you would say simply is that this person, like, I think this was a lady who felt like she was in hell in a near-death experience, is what she must have been thinking about when she passed away, or that was what she grew up under, supposedly in a church, so to speak, hell, that she was going to hell.
Yeah, we definitely need, the thing is, we need realistic understandings of things rather than fairy tales and childish pretense.
Right.
That will put you in that position because you don't know for yourself. Therefore, you're at the mercy of whatever happens to you. You have no control over it, so to speak. So
Right.
if you don't know nobody knows what's beyond death normally. So if
No.
somebody does, momentarily die, they're going to be very confused about what's going on.
Correct.
There's no preparation, and that's part of the issue of going to a mystery school, is that you are prepared for such things,
Right.
so that you're not surprised. That's part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
It
what is
kind of
what is
proves
also? Go ahead. Go
just
ahead.
to say, it kind of proves we do everything to ourselves.
Yes, we are our own worst tax master. We beat ourselves up, so to speak.
Yeah.
We're very negative towards ourselves, but part of that's also the programming that we
Yeah.
accepted to me, as a very young age, because of our parents taught that to us also, and we're not aware of that programming is taking place within our own lives. You see,
I
see,
think there needs to be a revamping of the understanding of principles in Christianity. For instance, prayer. People think prayer is asking God for things, or appeasing God or whatever. But prayer is a word referring to contemplation,
right,
because God is found through contemplation, and that's a reference directly to the second key to heaven that people also don't realize. That the
right.
first key you
That
meet
was your
God.
second step after
Yeah,
you
the
you
second
first,
key, you must have a developed understanding of things already to pass
right,
that second key, and
because
that was the preparation of the mystery school.
yeah, many of the things you talk about that many have already done is the first step, but they met God, but they never actually asked themselves afterwards. So why did this happen to me? So what was the purpose in this, such and such?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
did I am I on solid ground? Who is this guy?
yeah,
God, such and such. You see,
yeah, yeah.
you see. They
It
don't do
turns out,
that because they're so excited that they say, "Oh, I met God," and they assume that that's the only that's it. That was the gift, or that was it. Well,
yeah,
yeah, it's somewhat of a gift, but you were, most people don't notice, you were meant to dilly with it. You were most to dealing with it. When I say dilly, but basically think about it in your own mind and contemplate and say, what was this all about? Why did this happen to me? Why did this so and so person right near me? Did they not see this particular monk like I saw? Why was that? Why did it happen to me? Such and such.
mm,
There's many people who go to Angkor Wat. So why am I the only one, or I seem to be the only one who has bliss when others around me are they're just milling around. They don't. There's
hmm
nothing happening.
hmm
Why did it
yeah,
happen to me?
yeah. I think there's an expectation for people to have things happen to them, or if they're religiously inclined, that if they go to these places, then they'll immerse themselves in divinity expressed through a building, or a crowd, a congregation, or something. There's a terrible lack of learning in religious groups of normal, fundamental issues of physical reality. They think you don't need to learn that, but you really need to understand the distinctions between what is physical and what is spiritual. That this understanding of that distinction is what leads you to unify their opposition and make the cloud of heaven. But that's not taught to people, and
No.
it's not taught that this is what you're supposed to be doing while you live, because the expectation is, because of the misinterpretation, the expectation is that you'll go straight to heaven when you die because you've been a serving Christian and you were
Right.
baptized. And
Right.
God is going to save you when you die. Don't worry about it. You're going straight to heaven. But really, you're going to the spirit world. That's not
Right.
heaven. It's not the
No, it's
same
not.
thing. Heaven is the ideal. The spirit world is simply your home, your origin. Heaven is the
Right.
ideal. Yeah.
Yes. I called that, I guess, with the video I shared. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it. I called it the uh, 4D world, so to speak,
hmm hmm
uh, type of thing. But
Here.
I don't I don't consider it heaven because we're here. All of us individually are here to make heaven within ourselves. If you pointed
Yeah.
out, it's not to make heaven. This is what so many people I run into that is on Facebook and elsewhere. As we just need to get things straightened out here on the earth. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. I don't care who you are. Since day one, there's been chaos here, and it has
You,
never changed.
you're
You
talking
see,
about fixing things.
right, right.
Yeah, you can't. What's the famous expression over that is take the log out of your eye before you take the twig out of somebody else's eye. You cannot fix the world if you don't know what reality is in the first place.
Right.
Because your contexts are all shifted in a personal manner. Then it's not righteousness, it's self-righteousness, which is of demonic nature. Self-righteousness.
Oh,
Righteousness itself is divine nature. Because it can't be changed. It's absolute truth. Truth is always true. It can't be changed. Yeah. So we shift our self-righteousness to righteousness and lose our egos in the process, as it were.
Right. It's another thing that simply is that in the psychological realm, there are people, and we talked about it last week, not last year, but last week we were talking about trauma in that part. And there are psychologists such and such. So, what I'm seeing from people are they're majoring in the minor, meaning that simply they're looking at something. I want to solve this tragedy, not tragedy, but trauma in my life, such and such, and I want to deal with my ego, and I want to get rid of my ego. So they're majoring in what I call the minor things. They're not actually understanding simply. If you get the gift of ascension, then what happens simply is that goes away. That's a blank space. Everything's cleared away. You're no longer caught up in those things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. You're looking over them. You stand.
You're looking for the whole enchilada here. You don't want, people are what I call playing with bricks, so to speak, with a couple bricks. No, you want the whole apparatus, which is the pyramid. You see, you want that whole thing. You want that. You want the whole gamma of everything to understand all things and why things happen. But when you do piecemeal stuff, you'll be here forever trying to figure out, well, why do I have an ego or this and that type of thing? Or I believe in what I call these things people talk about, I believe in the stars. I believe in that someone's going to come and save us and all this stuff like that. And we're like, what, just all kinds of fairy tales.
Yes.
Fairy tales.
That's right. It is fake. Yeah, it's nonsense. A pyramid is basically a man-made mountain. The mountain metaphor is a very powerful one spiritually, because heaven is at the very top of the mountain, like Shambhala, the land of Shambhala, the perfect land. It's at the top of that mountain in Tibet, apparently. But that's just their religious construct, talking about this concept. There is no mountain in Tibet where Shambhala exists.
No. But that's what, the famous song, I think, was We're Going to Shambhala, which was by the Three Dog Night. I don't know if you remember that group or not. Yeah. So they were going to such and such. And so, that was, again, what we're talking about, the whole way of simply that people are trying to make heaven on this planet. We're going to go to Shambhala. Everything's going to be fairy tale. There's going to be milk and water and peace all around and flowers and everything. And there won't be any noise. All these type of things, in reality, simply is that's just a fairy tale. You see,
basically,
we're still little boys. Go ahead.
Yeah, a religious congregation of people might think, well, we're creating heaven on earth here in a little congregation, but you're not. You're just gathering people together who have a variety of psychological issues, and they're all trying to get on with each other. They're all trying to interpret the text. They're being told it says this. Then they have to, think about, well, he says it means that. What does that mean? And you're spending ages on things that don't mean anything. Right. Because he's misinterpreted that bit. And that bit has now put that bit out of joint, which puts that bit out of joint. And now you have to compensate. And that's what I see a lot, compensation. And it always goes wrong because they never conclude that we're here to make heaven with God.
No. That's simply... Well, the whole idea is that someone's done it all for you. Jesus did it all for you. He did it all for you. So there is no great work for Christians because they don't even consider that.
That's right.
They believe that this guy, Jesus, and they have the pulpit and they go to other churches. They talk about Jesus. They talk over here, the Methodists, the Baptists, the Presbyterians, all of them talk about it, such and such, that Jesus died for your sins, such and such. But reality simply is that there was no Jesus. You see, you see.
We can talk about that in a minute, but I just wanted to mention the fact that a religious somebody who joins a religion is pursuing what's called the path of devotion, and the idea is that they're supposed to be studying the scriptures, and by studying the scriptures, they're reading absolute truth. But if they're misinterpreting them, they're not getting that absolute truth. So the path of devotion is skewed. So I didn't want that path because it was so messy. I went with the path of knowledge.
Right.
And the path of knowledge is about studying natural science and psychology. It's not about studying scripture. But what you establish is what is written in the scriptures. So yeah, all these people are pursuing the path of devotion. A religious life is the path of devotion. Unfortunately, it rarely gets to its goal.
No, it doesn't.
Another thing is when people talk about Jesus, they don't realize they're talking about the cloud of heaven personified in these riddle type stories. And that's very clear to me that that's the case. But then you have an issue with 2000 years ago. Why did the Roman Church change at that kind of time? Was there somebody back then who inspired this change? And there might have been, but I wasn't there, so I can't tell you.
Well, that's a question. That was going to be a question I'm going to ask you. Was it also to do with the timing of the stars, so to speak, that allowed that to take place? Or you know what I'm saying? You know, some people go to war based upon the timing of the stars and stuff like that. That was a question I was going to ask today. But I've interrupted you. But
no, that's okay. That's okay. That's a big subject. If you want to go into astrology and how powerful that is or not. I mean, I don't go with astrology personally. Because
what I'm trying to say is simply that somewhat when I'm reading from Macy, somewhat he would talk about certain things that we don't even do this anymore. We would be celebrating the time of what takes place in December the 21st. Okay, when this winter. See, and then we do this also in the springtime in March 21st or 20th. Again, we don't understand even the importance of those things that were done many years ago, because a lot of that was due to most people. It was not an industrial society; it was an agricultural society. It was basically, so that's part of it. Go ahead.
It's very ritualistic.
Yes.
Very ritualistic. That's our history. It's ritualistic indulgences, as it were, and you'll find this in the equinox and the solstice.
Right.
They both refer to the same thing in different ways. So the equinox is simply the equalization of 12 hours of day and 12 hours of night.
12 hours the other way. Right.
And that's exactly like Titian's painting, showing that spirit and energy are unified as the cloud of heaven. So in the middle, it is between the two. It's in the gap between the two issues. And that's like the equinox. So when the sun rises at equinox, that represents your ascension into the heavenly realm, because you have equalized what is spiritual with what's physical in your understanding, and you've understood them as one thing. The solstice commemorates metaphysics, which is the third day. On the third day is a commemoration of the completion of metaphysics, which is when you find heaven. And the sun will rise at exactly the same point on the horizon 3 days in a row, from the 21st to the 24th. Then on the 25th, it will start taking a new course, and it will go across the horizon every morning. And that's the birth of the Son of God. But they like that, especially to commemorate Jesus, because there are 24 days before his birthday. And those 24 days literally represent the 24 elders.
Oh. I was going to guess and say it was representing 24 hours in a day. So
yes, they do as well. They do as well. That's why there are 24 hours in a day. It's two groups of 12. And it's exactly like the equinox. And yet we're talking about December, which is a solstice. So it's simply the same thing commemorated in different ways.
Correct.
That's pretty much all there is to that, in a way. They're commemorations and they're ritualistic, and rituals require timings. And timing has to do with the movement of the stars and the planets and what have you, the rotation of the earth around the sun. Therefore, it tends to be linked to astrology. Astrology is about timings.
Correct.
And we engage with the astrological timings, or the universal timings, as it were, cosmic timing. We engage with that. Sorry, I've just lost my track there. I was thinking
We're
of
back to
something else.
the talking about the deal with the 12 hours in a day, such and such.
Yeah, timings. That's right. Yeah,
Timing.
we pursue rituals because there are these timings in the natural world,
Right.
and people simply establish that we're looking for meaning in life in general. So when we
Yes.
see things in the outside world that seem like they have the same sort of pattern as our personal understandings of metaphysics, let's say, then we're going to link to that and use that as an outer world metaphor for what goes on inside the individual. And they are
Right.
timed, those events. Solstice is in December, and in the summer solstice and winter solstice.
Right.
See, they're timed.
And the spring and the autumn are what they call the equinox.
Yeah. It doesn't.
Go
It doesn't mean they're intentionally made like that. It's simply a coincidence of nature.
Right.
See, so we think, well, we're looking for meaning. Our understanding of meaning in the world is that we ascend from it and make heaven. That's when life becomes meaningful, so to speak. And we can see these, we can commemorate them in these natural events, because equinox is half day and half night. Well, funnily enough, when we make heaven, we're unifying heaven and earth, and we're equalizing them, which is what we see in the equinox. Therefore, we'll use the equinox as a commemoration, and that is a timed event. That's basically all that's going on there, really. It doesn't actually mean anything, equinox. It means nothing. It's just the earth going around the sun as usual. Right. You know, it doesn't naturally say, here's ascension in the natural world. No, we're doing that. And we make pictures out of constellations of stars. They are not there, in fact. we invent that. That's from our imaginations. But we're putting meaning onto the world around us, and the meaning has to do with our ascension. Yeah.
Well, again, the whole idea of astrology in some ways is to deal with psychology in some ways too, because it actually deals with when you're born and what particular planet is rising, such and such. So it gives you an idea of what your personality is and such, you see.
Supposedly, yeah.
Yeah, supposedly,
I had my birth chart done, and to be perfectly honest, I'm not impressed with it.
Okay.
I'm not. I've never been impressed with astrology and the implication of it, that these things are going to take place. You're going to receive certain energies and what have you. I just totally disagree with that, I'm afraid.
I'm not talking. I was talking about, I guess, basically.
Yes, I know.
I was talking about simply the reading of your birth chart, so to speak. That would be, maybe I'm wrong too, but I felt somehow that it gave me a little bit more of a ground. Now, I don't follow astrology like people do every day. I mean, it's just amazing. Anybody, like I said, anybody can tell you what they want to tell you, and to be straightforward, how do you know you're being told the truth? Because they'll just tell you a Mary story or whatever. Most of it's always going to be Mary, or this is such and such. You're going to meet somebody. Da da da. Well, you're always going to meet somebody. If you're a quote unquote. I mean, come on.
That's right.
I'm a male, and this person I'm going to meet, and as I get older, so to speak, I'm interested in a female, so to speak, a companion, and yet you're going to meet someone like that, and your mind goes and starts thinking, well, is this a nice person, such and such, da da da. But you met that person. You met that person by coincidence, so to speak, or you may have simply met them at some place other. And then you said, I have some interest in this person. Let me get to know this person. Da, 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 da. That is your free will doing that. That is your decision that I'm interested in finding a companion.
Yeah. A lot along those lines as well. People read tarot cards, and the only reason you get some sort of meaning out of tarot card spreads is because these are the key issues of your life. And all of them have meaning every single minute of every day.
Right.
So no matter what card you come out with, it's going to have a correlation with you in your life automatically. It doesn't mean there's something special or esoteric going on. It's just you focusing on that particular issue because you pulled that card. Right. Another thing another dimension to tarot card reading, for instance, is intuition and psychic nature that people have. And they do have this psychic nature, some of them. For instance, I was looking at some tarot card readers quite a while back, about a year ago, for various reasons. And a lot of them were saying, hey, something wonderful is going to happen any minute now. And it's only in hindsight that you can correlate.
Right.
And the only correlation I could grab with what they were saying was the release of a new album by my favorite band. That was it. You know,
and what is your favorite band, Bill?
Oh, they're called Osric Tentacles.
What?
Osric Tentacles. I'll show you.
Is that the music that you play in your background, and some of the things you're sharing on your videos?
Yeah, that's right. Hang on, here it is. It's right here. It's right here. So it was a release of this album. This album here. It's called Lotus Unfolding.
Okay, is that an Eastern Indian band or something of that nature? Or is that
no, they have lots of influences from India and Eastern musicians and instruments and what have you.
Right, that's what I thought.
They're an electronic band, effectively.
Right, they don't sing.
No, there's no singing. It's
right,
just music.
It's all music. Right.
That's right. It's
you play that with your when you're sharing your Giza pictures and such your videos. You play that in your background.
That's right.
Videos. Now, I enjoy some of it. I think it's pretty neat. Right. I find it very I said to myself, I said, Phil has some good taste in music. I mean, right. I mean, you would be what I call a good. I'd say, lack of a better word, but maybe you'd be a good disc jockey and introduce this music on a radio station, such and stuff. Because that's what a lot of disc jockeys did. They explored different areas and then they introduced this music to the audience. Sometimes that went well, and sometimes it didn't. So. But anyway,
this style is called psychedelic fusion. It's fusion music, basically.
Yeah, it's jazz.
Yeah, it's effectively modern jazz, right? Really, yeah.
Yeah. It's not jazz itself. Yeah, I used to listen to bands like Spiral Gyro and other bands of that nature. And then there was bands I listened to that were on the Windham Hill label.
The Weather Report was one.
Well, I didn't care for them. There was one. It'll come to me here in a minute, but I listened to them. I liked their music. I liked also there was a lady, Liz Story, who did piano. As I got older, you began to say, I don't need to hear all this rock and roll. I like to hear something else, and so I enjoyed listening to that. But anyway, it's it'll come to me here in a second. But anyway. Yeah, I liked that music about 20 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe a little longer than that. But it was really popular, basically almost in the late 80s and early 90s began to take place, such and such. It's no longer popular. One of the two major record labels here in America were called Windham Hill, which was big guy, was George Winston. I don't know if you know who he is. And then there was another label called Narada. And they would call that music, for any lack of a better word, they would call that the New Age music. That's what they called it.
Right.
Because they didn't have any genre to actually put this in a category, so they called it New Age music. That's what they called it.
Right.
And usually, the only place you would hear that would be on a college-owned radio station that basically is not, it's not making money. They're just simply introducing different music that like I said, the DJs like, and so they would play this kind of music, such and such. So, but yeah, it's I liked a lot of the fusion sound. One guy I do like here is if I can find him. This guy here. This guy here, I like him a lot. William Eltwood is his name. He was on the Narada record label. He's a Canadian, and he played guitar, and he was really a great guitarist. I don't know; he's pretty old now, but it's this is one of my favorite albums. It's just
right.
I can just but anyway,
great.
I call them albums, but they're CDs, and now they don't even use CDs, and it's ridiculous. It's kind of weird.
That's right. That's right.
You used to, but anyway, I used to be into music big time, Bill. I used to, I had a stereo system, spent quite a bit of money back in the 80s and such, and had all what they call separates. You had a good, amp, and you had a good, receiver, and you had a good, cassette deck and a good turntable, and you had to have actually speakers. So, I spent quite a bit of money doing that. That probably, today's no one even knows what you're talking about, but that's okay.
That's right. That's right.
But anyway, I gotten off a tangent here.
That's right. Yeah.
I was going. we kind of got off tangent here, so about the music thing. I thought I'd say this because I do believe when I went to the funeral of my cousin, we sang the song called "Amazing Grace," and I believe that God does provide grace and mercy in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so the anthem here simply is that, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I don't see people as being wretches. I believe that simply wretches is the same connotation that I see to John Calvin and others. They would say you're just, in God's eye, you're just a little worm. And that is not the truth. That is a lie, because we are created by God. We are spirits, you see. And so anyway, continues on. I was lost. I once was lost, but now I am found. I was blind, but now I see. It's really nice stuff. I mean, it just really sounds great, doesn't it? I mean, it's like, and
everything in Christianity is focused on the issue of becoming an ascended person. So when you're reading this stuff, those songs, it's as if you are ascended, and you're now thanking God for ascending you. How wonderful His grace is. I used to be a wretch. Now I'm not anymore. In other words, I was in the hands of the devil before, but now I'm in the hands of God. There's a fair bit of reality to that, but it's very easy to get mistaken about how things are portrayed, as it were, because we're all born.
It seems as though the music was ushered in to actually give people a feeling as though they were ascended, but in reality, they wasn't. Nothing's happened to them.
Right. Yeah, that's
you see that? It's almost as though it's done in a way to emphasize something that you've done, but in reality, you haven't done anything except, I believe that Jesus is my Savior and He died on the cross for me. And would you like to accept Him in your life and your heart? And that's it. And then you want to live for Him for the rest of your life. And so that's why. And then what happens? People believe that, and then what happens simply is they go into the church and they do all kinds of things, and they assume that everything's peachy, everything's okay, everything's taken care of, the life insurance has been paid for. You see.
Yeah, it's almost as if their baptism that started their religious journey, so to speak, is their ascension moment, and now they're simply enjoying it and rejoicing in the fact that they are an ascended Christian. Right. That's the impression I get from their ideas, the way they see these things. It's very unfortunate.
I told you the experience that what happened to me when I was 4 years old and got scared to death. But then at 8 years old, I'm still in church there, and suddenly I say, "Oh, I want to be a Christian." I put my hand up, and they say, "Oh, in children's church." And next thing you know, they usher me back here and talk to me. Well, yeah, they're talking to you as a child. That's where the church gets most of its quote unquote members from. It's not usually through adult decisions. It's mainly through children's church or children's vacation Bible school. That's where they get their initiatives or people involved in church. And then what happens simply is you're sold out to the church. You work for the church. You do things for people. I'm not saying they're bad, but you pay offerings and such, and all these things. You're paying people to do certain things in the church. A pastor, a music director, whatever you want to call it. But the point simply is, nothing really happened. You see,
right?
I think the key is that when this happens, there's this happy clappy also idea with others around you. They hug you and such, and you're welcome to the body, welcome to the family, such and such. So this whole idea is brought in. It's a psychological bonding. That's what it is. It's a psychological bonding that you're in the club now. You're in with Jesus, and you don't have to worry about anything now. Everything's okay.
It's almost as if they're trying to create the heavenly congregation on earth with themselves. Because all angels belong with Jesus Christ. They all link to heaven. That is our foundation now. As an angel, heaven is your foundation. So, and we have fellowship in those terms, and we're all equal. And that's what they're trying to do in the Christian church, to make everybody equal. You have fellowship, you support each other, yada yada. It's almost like a mimicking of the
It is.
heavenly situation.
But yet you find out simply as you get distraught when suddenly you find out the pastor is playing around with a secretary in the church, or is messing around with his wife and his wife, and it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
See, that kind of basically says, wait a minute, something's wrong with this picture here. If you're supposedly saved, why would you be doing something like that? And then it would be excuse. Well, we tend to backslide. That's a word they use called backsliding in the church. Well, we tend to backslide such and such, and then we get our act back together. And I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, what are you talking about backsliding? If you're backsliding, maybe you were never in it in the first place.
Right. See,
Go ahead.
In those terms, I am supposed to be a priest.
Right
now.
Right.
And as a priest, I'm sexless. See, the priests are always supposed to be sexless. So, I mean,
is that what the Catholic Church says? That's not what the Protestants say. I'm sorry, but
right. But the principle is that if you become godly, it is true that you rise above all that stuff. You do rise above that stuff. So, but it's regular people.
Yeah, because simply is that your motivation is, quote unquote, your companion is no longer on the outside of you again. You're, a woman, or whatever you want to call it. Woman, so to speak, but I mean companion. And I think that what the Catholic Church is doing there is, again, playing a game with their priests and saying, oh, once you, the church is now your wife or mother, so to speak. You see? Right. And so you now serve her. They'll use that. You serve the church. You serve her.
That's right.
And so you see how they twisted all this around to make people feel as though they're Christians. In reality, nothing happened.
Right.
Nothing happened.
There's lots of promises going on there and lots of good intentions, which is fine. It's no problem. But for instance, if I approached the Catholic Church and said, look, I am actually a high priest of God, they wouldn't accept me. They might say, I thought years ago, maybe it would be a good idea to go to my local church and have a chat with people and say, but I realized within 5 minutes, as soon as because I'll be using their language, which is right, but I'll say, but you do know that Jesus Christ is the cloud of heaven itself. And they'll say, what? What are you saying? I've been accused of being a false teacher by very young people who have no idea what they're talking about. And
you know what? If you came to me when I was 20 years old and did that, guess what? I'd see you as a false teacher too. What are you talking about? Because they don't talk about that type of thing. They don't talk about angel. That you're an angel. That's what you're here. Like you demonstrated that you know these things. So you're ascended. So you're an angel. Okay. When you come in and say that you're an angel in those churches, they're going to look at you and say you're either a fruitcake or you're a false teacher.
Yeah, or you're demonic and you're pretending and you're going to lead us all astray. Yeah, I saw a documentary just yesterday about the Sistine Chapel and all the paintings that Michelangelo was doing. They showed you a notebook with a self-drawing of what he did. He was standing painting like this.
I don't know how he could do that. I think about he must have been incredibly young, because that's enormously stressful on a back, so to speak. But he can be able to do that. In fact, getting even up there, it's another thing when you think about it. Go ahead.
They made scaffold, and he'd have to lie on his back sometimes and paint.
He had to lie. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. He painted angels with no wings and no halos. They looked like regular people, and that's exactly right.
Oh.
He's one of the only people who portrayed angels in a natural, normal way, without the effulgence of poetic, artistic license, as it were, the symbolic quality of artistic license. The wings literally represent the fact that you've ascended and flown vertically up into heaven, effectively. And now you're a member of heaven. You can fly. You have freedom. You have an extra freedom that other people don't have. They're stuck to the earth. No, you can fly through the air, and you've got 3 dimensions of freedom.
Right.
It's just an expansion of the idea of your freedom. And the halo means that's a complete circle. It's exactly the same as the complete white collar that a priest wears, showing that they've completed the circle of creation. They've closed the loop
within themselves.
and the
Right.
only portion visible is now a square. That's a square.
Yeah.
The white portion on the front of and of course the black
Yeah.
suit is the abyss. It represents the
Oh.
abyss of the priest, and the little white square here says that he has squared his own circle, and
Right.
he's made the fifth element, which is Jesus Christ, and now he can tell the word of God, and the word of God is the truth. He can speak the truth. That's amazing.
So the symbolism, they knew all this when they did this. The symbolism fits right even with the clothing.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially their chasubles, the different colors of the chasubles. You know, the overcoat they put on,
Right.
like almost like a poncho. The green, purple, and orange.
Right.
Can you believe that? If you take the nature of the abyss is yellow, white, black, white, and red. Sorry, black, white, and red. It's very much royalty. Anyone who works for royalty wears black, white, and red.
Right.
But the physical nature of ourselves is considered to be yellow, blue, and red. Yellow refers to the head because you link to the sun, and the sun is yellow,
right.
like your ego.
And
Your
blue
heart is red because it's full of blood.
Okay.
And your body is blue because it's full of water.
Water,
So yellow, red,
right.
and blue. If you mix yellow and blue, you get green.
Right.
You mix blue and red, you get purple. You mix yellow and red, you get orange. Those are the three colors of the chasubles.
Right. So they even using those three other alternate colors that are mixed together, like orange, green, and what is the other one? Red, purple. Those are what I call exotic colors because they're much brighter.
Yeah,
to me they are.
They also, not only does black, white, and red relate to ascension, but the green, orange, and purple also relate to ascension. Funnily enough, in the Sistine Chapel, if you look up at Jonah, Jonah is painted, and Jonah is wearing orange, green, and purple on purpose, because orange, green, and purple also relate to ascension because they're the fourth stage down on the tree of life.
Oh,
there's a whole esoteric understanding behind these colors as well that very few people know about.
Well, maybe you should share that now since you know that.
Well, I basically kind of told you. If you look at the levels of the tree of life, the top level is just white. It's one color because it's pure spiritual nature.
Right.
The next level down relates to the abyss and the creative principle, and that is black, white, and red. The next level down is going to be the physical nature, the start of what's physical, and that's yellow, blue, and red. And then you have the fourth level down, which is going to be the mixture of those colors, and that's orange, green, and purple.
Would that also deal with what we call the four parts of your whole body, so to speak, too? That is, your lower one would be the orange, green, and purple.
That's right.
All right. Okay.
That's right.
Which what I would call those to be are what I call exotic colors. You know, those are bright colors. They're like neon colors, so to speak, when you think about them. You know, maybe not purple, so to speak. But you also, when you mentioned the first part of the ones being black, white, and red, well, you see that you not only see that in churches, but you also see that in government.
Yeah, that's right. The judge in the court will be wearing black, white, and red. Yeah. Right. And if you look at every single person directly linked to royalty, they're always wearing black, white, and red.
Yeah, because the guy stands out there supposedly with the gun on his thing, such and such, and being attention all the time. He's dressed in black, white, and red.
Yeah. If you look at the Vatican guard is wearing yellow, red, and blue.
Yeah,
that's the physical colors. Yellow, red, and blue is their uniform, and that's because they are the physical body that protects the church.
Right.
The Vatican, they're the Vatican protectors, the bodyguards of the Pope, so to speak.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And they are bodily. They have a physical effect, and because of the association to physical, it's yellow, red, and blue, and that's their uniform. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing. See, so colors themselves do have an impact. You see.
Yeah.
Because it actually almost sometimes puts people. I'll say this, and maybe you can correct me also. It may put you with the green, yellow, green, orange, and purple would put you like in a trance, so to speak.
Yeah,
like almost.
Have a look at this. Hang on a sec. Yep, this one. Here's a film called Star Wars: The Last Jedi.
Right.
The entire cover is black, white, and red.
Right.
There is no other color on there. Nothing.
Right.
It's black, white, and red. You'll see this a lot in movies and advertisements on television. They only use black, white, and red sometimes.
Right.
And the one advert for a car, the first scene was black, white, and red, and the second scene was yellow, red, and blue. So the people in this industry know about these esoteric use of colors. There's no question. There is no question. They can pretend and say, well, these are very impressive colors because black and white is simply high contrast, and red is full of blood. So, you can psychologically sort of relate to it. But really, this is pure esotericism expressed. It really is. You'll see it.
So they are revealing by even the colors in movies and cars, on the advertisements, you see these things. They're dealing what I call so in doing what I call something to deal with to grab your attention.
That's right.
Physically, so to speak. Someone's got a comment here. Daily DOS viral TikTok. What is the topic about? Well, the topic is dealing with esotericism. It deals with simply is that Phil has ascended, that he's ascended to become an angel. That happened to him nearly, 9 years ago when he went to Angkor. How many?
Yeah, over 9 years ago.
Over 9 years ago in December, and he had experience, and he has actually ascended, and he recognized what it was all about. He has many videos that share that information, so you can look into his go to YouTube channel and look under Phil Langdon, and you can also go search if you want to. You can search these written books free of charge, talking about this thing also, and also speaking about that in the pyramids in Egypt. So we're talking about different subjects. We just go from whatever we were talking about. I ask questions here, and then Phil answered those things for me. So we've been meeting for the last 4 months, at least 3 or 4 months.
Sure. Yeah,
maybe longer. We didn't meet in December because you were busy, but we've been talking, and then we deal with. We talk about, as I do. I'm interested in philosophy and interested in this subject deeply. And Phil is a little bit more technical minded. His major, I think, was math and
physics,
science. And a deeper deal. He wanted to know why was he here? What was the purpose of him being here? I took a different path. I'm not yet ascended, so I'm learning, so to speak, here. So
sorry to interrupt, Brian, just to answer that guy's question, what are we talking about? What I try to emphasize is the automatic and natural understanding of scripture. As a result of being an ascended person, I understand what is going on in the Bible. I can tell you about the riddles and why they're written like that. I'm very familiar with Jewish history and Kabbalah. I'm basically, I used to be what you'd call a Kabbalist. I studied that for many, many years, very much in depth. I'm very used to the riddles of Jewish allegory, because what you got here is Jewish allegory, and people don't know that. Even Jews have to be told about this. Even them, which I was surprised at. I thought they'd know better, but they come out of very similar things to Christians. And it's quite
most of them believe that simply there's going to be a tribulation period. All this stuff that they're talking about, they take it literally. That is in the book of Revelations.
Unfortunately, they take the rules of a Messiah. They take far too literally. For example, the Messiah, they're waiting for a Messiah, the Jews.
Correct.
And they say this Messiah has to come from the line of David.
Correct.
What does that mean? What is the line of David exactly? What would a Christian tell you, the line of David? They're thinking about a bloodline of certain physical people.
They're talking about a physical bloodline.
Yeah, this is not a physical bloodline.
No,
we're talking about the blood of the line of David is the blood of the Lamb.
Right.
So an ascended person is of the blood of the Lamb, and they are of the royal line of David, because ascension makes you royalty. This is the source of what we call royalty on planet Earth.
Right.
And people don't know that either. Why is there a link between royalty and the church? Well, this is the link between them.
Right.
It doesn't mean the king is an ascended person, because all the things of ascension can be learned intellectually by anyone if you have access to the information. It doesn't mean you are ascended, but you can repeat and regurgitate.
Right. And you have not had the experience.
Yeah, that's what kings tend to do. So if somebody says, well, you say you're an ascended person, are you of the royal bloodline? You're not even Jewish. Yes, I am Jewish, and I am of the royal bloodline of David. Let me explain that to you, because you don't understand it.
Yeah, he has another question here. I'll tell you this, Daily Dose, viral TikTok. No, we're not Orthodox or Catholic. We're not even involved in the religion categories, period.
No, not really. I can explain those things to you, but I don't have any label on me as such.
Right.
Another thing that isn't realized, the word religion means to relink with God, which is your true self. Once you've done that, you don't need to be religious anymore, because you've achieved what the point of religion is. Therefore, I will say I'm no longer religious, because I know God. I don't need to be religious to find God. I found God. God found me.
Found God. Right.
There you go. So I'm not religious. So that might put somebody off. They might think, well, you don't know about religion. No, that's not what that means. I know a lot about religion. I've grown up a Roman Catholic. I was baptized when I was 1 year old or something, without my knowledge. I've always been a Roman Catholic.
They didn't ask you, did they?
No. I was confirmed at 14.
Right.
In the church. I was confirmed. I sat on the knee of the bishop, who had wearing all his gear, and he had the crook of the old pharaohs.
Right.
Crook, yeah, with a great. He has a divine heart. That's what that says. And he's not going to lie to you. And I sat on his knee, and he said, "Do you reject the works of the devil?" I said, "Yes, of course I do."
Right.
And that's all he asked, and that was our confirmation. It was a great big ceremony. I didn't really know what was going on. I had no idea, in fact. Anyway, but I can tell you all about the contents of religions, because I recognize them always commemorating this achievement of making heaven with God. Always.
Okay, he's got another question here. Didn't mean you there's Mr. Menza's in the house also. Good to see you. I don't know who is. You said RC here too, Altar Boy. I don't know who that is. Sorry. And then Daily Dust. Pardon me.
You did. Altar Boy sounds like a Catholic.
Well, it says RC, so that sounds like Roman Catholic here. Oh, okay, that's what he means. He's a Roman Catholic here too. Altar Boy.
I'm Roman Catholic, if you need to know. Yeah.
Yeah, my background is Protestant, but anyway, again, Daily Dust asked, but do you believe in the Bible?
Yes.
We don't believe in the Bible and being literal, you see.
I absolutely believe in the Bible. In my opinion, the Bible is the greatest book on earth. Right. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. This is all true. Everything is true. But people don't know how to read it. That's the problem. That's what we were talking about earlier. Reading about Elijah in 1 Kings on the mountainside, where there's an earthquake and a fire and a great wind. These are the elements, the 4 elements. And going to Damascus is the finding of the great water, which is the making of the cloud of heaven. This is what it really means. I know that, but explaining it to others is always going to be you're always going to have a hard time, because they have their own ideas, and everybody else agrees with them. Apparently, are they ever going to listen to me or understand what I'm trying to tell them? Because they don't like the esoteric. They hate Kabbalah. Christians do not like Kabbalah. I don't understand.
Because they think it's of the devil. They think it's of the devil.
I tell you something. Another thing they get wrong. They think they interpret this. We need to be like little children. They interpret that as meaning you don't need to learn anything.
Right. You don't need to explore it. Everything's been taken care of for you.
Yeah, that's not what that means. A child is simply honest, and therefore you are being asked to be honest. That's all.
Right.
Be honest with yourself about everything. If you don't understand something, be honest about it. Right. That's what that means. It doesn't mean you cannot be learned or should not be learned. It doesn't mean that at all. You must be learned. If you want to make heaven, you must be learned. Otherwise, how are you going to do that?
Right.
It's not possible without some learning, without some sense of logic and reason and reality.
Yeah. What the Catholic Church, all churches have done, I should say, you would say, Phil, probably, is that the Catholic Church is basically, I don't know if the good word is watered down, but basically they made it, they've, what's the word? Paul talks about,
Accessible.
you're still drinking milk, and, you need to be eating meat. You need to be eating meat.
Yeah.
See, not,
Yeah, as
not
a
milk.
metaphor.
That's a metaphor, right?
Yeah,
And,
sure.
and so, and what the church is doing is simply they're treating you as a child and
Yeah.
saying, "Here's the milk," and because that's to them, that's where you're at.
Yeah. Let me bring this up again. I don't know whether these guys caught it or whether that guy caught it in the first place, but I've added something to my book is called The Cloud of Heaven. It's free to download. It's got all my work in it, all of it, apart from the Book of Revelation, which is separate. However, I've added something today because I found it very important to point out that the most important things that give people problems, and one of those statements in the Gospel of Matthew is when Jesus says, "I have not come to bring peace. I've come to bring a sword." Most people, when they're simplistic, will think, "What? I thought he was
Where's
the
that
Prince
come
of
from?
Peace." Yeah,
He's
he's supposed to be the Prince of Peace. What's he talking about? Warmongering now with a sword?
Right.
No. The sword,
Right.
in tradition, if you look up tradition, the sword represents the truth. So all he's saying is, I've come to bring the truth. If you don't like it, it's going to separate you from your family. In the passage, it says, "I have come to set you against your sister, your siblings, your father, your mother."
Right, your parents back. You're going to be fighting one another, so to speak.
Yeah, and that sounds like warmongering, but
Yes,
it's got nothing to do with that. Because human beings are naturally self-righteous, when you find God, you become righteous, and there's a war, a dichotomy between self-righteousness and righteousness. It's the same war that we call the spiritual war between the devil and God, as it were, as if they're equals. They are not equals.
Not equals, though.
There is nothing equal to God. Nobody can stand against God, period. So there's a lot of misunderstanding and very, very simplistic misinterpretation with these things. So the statement, "I bring a sword," is nothing more than saying, I'm here to bring you truth. And that's what the cloud of heaven does for you. It shows you the truth straight away. It's the root of all our existence. Therefore, you understand the root, therefore you understand the tree.
Right.
See?
We were told somewhat that the lack of a better word is like you're talking about the truth, but then also there would be in the church, so to speak, there would be also love. So there would be a recognition of basically the man would be what we would call, in a way he is, the spirit, understanding of a woman being matter, that she's going to be more interested in what we call loving that child. And yet you as a daddy, such and such, you're interested in putting stabilization and grounding for that child and talk about truth, son. You if you want to do these things, this is what you got to do. If you want to be a artist or you want to be a welder or whatever, this is what you got to learn how to do. And the mother is the very caretaker, so to speak. See.
Yeah, the male and female roles, as it were, in your life. Yeah, right. They're both important.
And that was part. Yeah, and that was part of the family, but it also was instituted basically in the Protestant churches in some ways. It was also that way, you see. But anyway, we digress here somewhat. Again, there's no problem with. Don't frown upon asking questions here. This is your time to ask. There's about 3 people here, 4 people, 5 people here earlier. There's nothing wrong with asking a question. There's not going to be any embarrassment here. It's just simply you're asking because you're looking for answers. And this is your time to ask.
Yeah, sure. That's right.
That's what this is what this is all about. It's because I'm not ascended. I'm interested in what Phil talks about, and that's why I do interviews with him, usually once a week, you see. And so I'm seeking what he has, you see.
Yeah. Just to say something different, Buddha said when he became enlightened, apparently, he said, "I don't think people are going to get this." And when I heard that, I had the same idea, because you realize what it takes to make the cloud of heaven is beyond what most people are talking about or referring to. They think it's going to be done for them. It is done for you in the sense that God needs to expand from you, but you're the one who needs to open the gate in order to let God expand. It's down to you, not God. God is showing you himself and revealing himself to you.
He's not going to violate he's not going to violate your free will.
That's right. Now it's up to you to respond to God, and your response to God is to understand that God is all there is. And when you understand that a few days after you've had the encounter with God in the sacred trance that we mentioned earlier, when you understand that, it is your intellectual understanding that realizes there is only this unification of all things as God. God is everything all at once, let's say. It's this kind of thing. We can go far more into detail in that if anybody wanted to, but I do write about that in the book in the first chapter, because that first chapter is the reference chapter for everything else in the book. And the reference chapter is literally explaining the keys to heaven to you from experience, not an intellectual endeavor where I've read loads of books and put it back together. No, you're reading the actual experience of ascension, from meeting God to ascending to the cloud of heaven as the first chapter. And now you have the proper reference to refer to all the other things in the book.
I've got another question here. A gentleman named Jacob underscore U. What do you say about old Christianity, such as Ethiopian Orthodox? End quote.
Ethiopian Orthodox. Yeah, there's lots of things to say about that. You have the commemoration of the issues of ascension in the religion of Christianity in various guises around the world. The Ethiopian is very interesting. I don't know whether you know about, I think it's Axum. At Axum, they have the Ark of the Covenant, apparently. And if you go too close to it, it'll kill you. Well, there's a lot to say about that as well. That's the old, the Ark of the Covenant was basically a capacitor. We've spoken about this before. It holds energy, very raw, fundamental energy, as if it's commemorating the idea that the cloud of heaven is also the creative principle. Unfortunately, it would kill you if you literally went too close to it, because it's a charged object. That is electricity. And you can get electric shock from that will kill you in a second. In Axum, they hold an object that is like unto the ark. It's not the Ark of the Covenant. The true Ark of the Covenant is the cloud of heaven itself. In Axum, however, they commemorate these things in the Christianity of Ethiopia, I notice. And there is something in the ground that is shaped like the classic cross. I think you call it the Maltese cross. And the Maltese cross is an equal cross. It doesn't have an elongation at the bottom. It's basically looking at the cloud of heaven. When you turn around and see it in the abyss when you ascend, it has beams of light coming out of it that are all the same length. And the cloud has four faces. So beams are coming out in four main directions, literally vertically and vertically up and down, and horizontally left and right when you turn around and see it. And they have the exact look overall of the Maltese cross, which is why that cross is used. They use that cross in Ethiopia, as well as across the Orthodoxy in Central Europe and Eastern Europe. And Russia, of course, is Orthodox. They have the Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church. But it's exactly the same commemoration. They highlight different aspects of the same commemoration, basically, in different ways. But it's all the same subject. There's no distinction.
What I was going to say simply was that the cross is equal, that is such and such. Now, is that cross representing the four, again, aspects, that is, the air, water, and fire? And
you can certainly think like that, but really it's the literal representation of what the cloud looks like.
Okay.
In terms of its beams, the beams coming out of it, because the beams are heavily accentuated as the blood of the Lamb pouring out. So the Lamb has been slain, and now it's pouring out its lifeblood in all directions, and that's what it looks like. It's a generalization of what it looks like, because they don't normally draw the beams individually. They just draw a conglomeration sort of shape that shows you there is something coming out here from this central point, as it were. But the cloud literally kind of looks like that if you look at it overall.
Yeah.
With the cross, with the elongation at the bottom. So just to add this, with the elongation, that elongation is exactly the same as when you walk into a church. First of all, you open the doors, you step one step into the church, you're at the bottom of the aisle, and the aisle leads to the altar, and behind the altar is the Son of God crucified. So here you have immediately when you walk into a church, the scenario of ascension when you see the Son of God as a cloud in front of you. His right arm is literally, there are three prongs on the end of his arm. His arm is coming out towards you, and you are right there at the end of his arm. So when you turn around and see him, his arm is already extended towards you. It's right in front of you, his hand. And there's a cloud in the distance. You can see over the top of the arm, the beam. It's a beam of white light, a pure beam, like a cylindrical beam, frozen in place. That's a scenario when you walk into a church. It's commemorating ascension without a doubt.
Again,
so the elongation on the cross, the crucifix, represents this right arm coming out towards you. Yeah, so it shows you ascension.
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate this simply is that all you have to do, if you want to look into what he's written, and you can find out what his books are about, they're all free. He's not in it for profit. This is not a profit game. Now, if you want a book, yeah, you'll buy one, but you can download a electronic book. Just simply go to his YouTube channel called Phil Langdon. That's Phil, and Langdon spelled Langdon. And you'll see there in the deal, simply you can go down there and look where he's got these books that he's written.
Yeah.
And you're free. They're free, all of them.
Well, they're actually all into one book now. I've conglomerated them all into one. So there's no need to have 4 different books, because people were saying, well, which one shall I read? And I thought, well, I think it's better if I just put it into one. So that's what I've done. So you don't need the other ones. The contents of them are in this new book, as it were. It's called Heaven is a Cloud. It's the very first thing you come to on my channel on YouTube. You'll see it. You just click on the Dropbox download, and it will immediately download the entire book for you. And it does contain 4 Gnostic texts, fully interpreted from start to finish, with full references behind them as well, and where my interpretations come from, why I'm saying it means this and that. Everything is explained clearly. If people are interested in Christianity, the 2nd chapter is the most enjoyable in those terms. It's all about Christianity and the church. And sayings and quotes of Jesus. But there are sayings and quotes of Jesus throughout this book as well, from the Gospel of Thomas, explaining why they appear like that.
Another question from this guy named Jacob_U. What's your comment about the TV series, quote, The Chosen? Is it biblical, accurate? Is it blaspheming for them if they added fictional stories and different scenes?
I've not seen that. I didn't even know there was a program called Chosen, because I tend not to watch much television. So I didn't know about that. I'll have a look, actually, because he's mentioned it. That's quite interesting. The word chosen is quite interesting. I've heard lots of people in the so-called New Age field. I study all sorts of different kinds of people around the world a lot. And I listen to their language and how they understand things. And their language is that you may be a chosen one.
Right.
So there's a distinction between the chosen one and chosen ones, but there is no distinction. But people don't realize the extension of reality means that when you become an angel, you are free to do what you wish. However, you feel obliged to help others. And in this obligation, this natural obligation, you will reincarnate as an incarnated angel, and you will be more advanced than other people who have not done this for themselves in their own past. So now comes the issue of past lives and many lives, and how many lives does it take for you to ascend? Christianity doesn't like that idea, because it says you live once and you die and you're judged, and that's it. And you're either burnt in the fires of hell, or you go to heaven, neither of which is basically true, because you're never going to spend eternity in hell. That's impossible. It's only it's a very, very simple idea, and you don't belong there. We all belong in the spirit world, so making heaven is a very special thing. And we can only do that in the terms that we discuss. It's not given to you just like that because you say, I want to be a Christian or I've been baptized. I mean, it's the same as having a bath or a shower, effectively. But what you're really doing there is making a promise. The idea of baptism, I find, or I feel, is about making a promise to God and saying, look, I will pursue you. I will pursue truth. I'll read the scriptures. I will pursue the path of devotion to God. That is a religious life. Monks take it even further. However, being a chosen one, like they talk about in Harry Potter, bleeds into this New Age area and the area of alchemy as well, because they're all related, these things, in various ways. So the esoteric nature is the riddle nature of what's written in the Old Testament, an awful lot. And in the New Testament, this riddle idea is contained in the parables of Jesus, and they're far easier to understand than the riddles of the Old Testament. They're more direct. Yeah.
Anyone else want to ask a question? You're welcome to ask a question here. This is your opportunity. Again, pretty much all questions are valid, so to speak, because that's something you're looking for, trying to search or trying to understand something. I was going to ask you a question since they're here. What is your opinion of G.R.S. Mead? Have you read anything by him, Phil?
No, I've heard the name, but I've not spent time reading his material.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was curious because he's kind of the same circles with, not quite the same circles, but similar to do with, probably was connected with, what's her name in England? Annie Besant.
Oh yeah, I've heard of her.
Esoteric Christianity, so to speak.
Right. Are we bleeding into the Rosicrucian order here? Is that the idea?
Well, I don't know. I don't know where he's at. I mean, like for example, here the two guys you recommended was Gerald Macy, and then also you recommended a gentleman also here to do with, which has been reading is, well, you actually recommended three people also to deal with Alvin Boyd Kuhn, and then Eustace, not Eustace, but the one that wrote the Temple of Man.
R.A. Scholar de Lubitz. Right. Yeah. It's very much like, Rosicrucians. I mean, I should be technically a Rosicrucian, but I'm not. And I'm not involved with any group or cult or anything like that anywhere. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with grouping in general. You must stand on your own.
That puts a stimulation on you. That means that, oh, you're in that group. Okay, so you must believe this. Yes. So,
and you have to go along with the group, which is antithesis to what you're trying to do. You're supposed to stand on your own 2 feet and think for yourself. Knowing God is knowing God for yourself and not having somebody else explain it to you anymore. You see, so I don't believe in this idea of groups or creating a congregation of some kind. Rosicrucians is another example of that. They're very nice people, Rosicrucians. I've got nothing against them. There's a few things I don't like they seem to revere Akhenaten for some reason. Goodness knows why. I don't think they understand him at all. So I have an issue with that. I'd never join that sort of group personally. I'd have conversations with them if they want to, but I think they don't trust me or something. I've never had a single one of them come to me in all these years, not one. And yet what I'm saying is almost exactly what they say.
Oh,
bizarre. It's bizarre. And yet they never actually do it. They read about it, they talk about it, they immerse their minds in these ideas, but do they actually achieve it? Well, I've never encountered one that's achieved it. And why not? Why on earth not? I don't understand that, you see. I don't understand why people don't achieve this, because it's not that difficult. It's just a question of focusing on the right issues and understanding. You need to develop yourself beyond your personal self-righteousness, because most people are want to be self-righteous, and that extends, of course, to the idea of taking revenge. And self-righteousness and revenge go hand in hand, that they're akin to each other, but really the divine way is never take revenge. Justice is divine, and righteousness is divine, arguably so. So this is what you adhere to.
Yeah, I don't. I'm just asking simply as what was your perspective of GRSME, because I've just gone by what some of the things you've suggested to me to read, and I still got plenty to read. Don't doubt me there. But I'm just saying simply is that, that's his name comes up. I don't know if he's a Rosicrucian. He might have been a Theosophical, I think.
Theosophist.
But,
right.
Yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, I have the works of Helena Blavatsky, but I cannot understand her, so to speak. And I don't want to delve into that now. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not the important part here. I've got another question again from Jacob/_you. He just makes a statement. I don't know if he says it's the story of Jesus Christ. So I don't know what you're referring to this about, Jacob_you, because are you connected in what Phil's talking about? Are you talking about Jesus Christ in the, a man, or are you talking about Jesus Christ as being, lack of a better word, esoteric or spirit?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned before, there may well have been somebody 2,000 years ago who became ascended and spoke in parables. These parables are very much recordable. You'll find them in the Gospel of Thomas as a selection of different parables and ideas that you can use if you want to construct a gospel. So there is nothing really that says, well, here's a person 2,000 years ago that we can call Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the cloud of heaven, not a person. So the New Testament is personifying the cloud of heaven, or any person who achieves the cloud of heaven, and the kind of things they're going to say. You automatically want to speak in allegorical terms, it turns out, because it's very easy to understand. You can understand very deep concepts with using allegories. By saying, well, I don't understand this. Well, it's kind of like this. It's like getting into a boat and crossing a river to get to the other shore. Oh, I see the pattern you're using. So parables use patterns to convey intelligent ideas. And this is naturally what you want to do. Really, in my books, I expose the concept in parables and the allegories that are being used, and I add to them, and to show you there's a very natural way of looking at what these things are expressing and why they're using that kind of expression, because it takes very few words to say very deep things with parables. It's a very useful way of talking. But if there was somebody 2,000 years ago, the most you can get out of that is that there was an illuminated, ascended person 2,000 years ago. There may well have been, I don't know, but the only historical reference to him apparently is from Josephus. And I've read the bit that talks about him apparently, and it really looks like it's just been dumped in there to make it seem like there was somebody to back up this idea that we're really talking about a person in the New Testament, when we're not. We're talking about a personification of what happens from the cloud of heaven. The cloud of heaven gives you the truth, and therefore you can speak the truth. So, and it's a person that this truth comes out of. Therefore, we can personify it, and we can write a story that relates to all the aspects of the brain that are represented by the 12 apostles. They represent the 12 noetic aspects of your brain, the noetic forces. Noetic is a Greek word for intellectual. So it's just 12 aspects of your brain, the major key aspects that are also represented in the esoteric world, and tarot cards and astrology and various other guises. They're just other expressions of the same thing. And they're basically categorizing the aspects of a human being. So in personification, we can have Jesus surrounded by the apostles, which is exactly the same as a cloud of heaven in the center of your brain, surrounded by the 12 aspects or noetic forces. And it's simply personified and turned into a story to educate you. It's about education. the Bible. It really is. But you need to know that it's doing this. You need to know what the truth is behind it first. Then you get a real education, I feel.
Got three questions here. So Jacob _U is referring to the movie The Chosen One. So okay, all right.
Right, I've not seen it. I think I've heard of it. I need to look at that. Then I'll have a look at it. I'm interested by that.
Mr. Menza has a couple of questions also. I didn't mean to break you up. Sorry.
That's right.
Are there entities / forces trying to stop us from ascending, such as the Vatican or evil entities? End quote.
You don't even need that. Your own mind is going to stop you.
Right. I was going to say, there's not really outside forces. They've done a good job. The problem simply is that you struggle with that because you a lot of times you want you think about your cravings, for certain things. You see, all that keeps you from getting to the truth.
It can do. I mean, it can do. The thing about that is that people misunderstand the archons. They don't realize it's just the nature of physical reality, the archonic nature. They think it's beings or something, and they're purposefully messing us around. No, they're not. It's just aspects of physical reality, archons. The one interesting thing in these terms is the 72 demons of Solomon. King Solomon dealt with 72 demons. Why on earth when people don't study Kabbalah, they don't recognize these things. So number 72. As soon as I see that, I know exactly what's going on. I don't even need to look it up. The number 72. Where does it come from? What's it talking about? Why are there 72 demons? Well, why are there 72 three-letter names of God? Why is that? Because you can refer to God. When we're saying God in these terms, in Kabbalistic terms, we are actually referring to the cloud of heaven, not spiritual God. There's a distinction. Spiritual God is more like Elohim. Right, there's a lot to say about that. It's more of a pluralization because of metaphysics. Metaphysics is three. It's one that's three. So if there are 72 three-letter, in Hebrew you use three letters together and they refer to the cloud of heaven. There are 72 of these, it turns out, and the cloud of heaven, of course, is the unification of what's spiritual, what's physical. So if these 72 letter names of God are the spiritual ways of referring to the cloud, i.e. the Son of God, as the creative principle, or the devil, because that's what the devil truly is, the creator of a physical system, which is a copy of the spirit world. So it's fake. Our universe is fake. It is a matrix made out from this demiurge. And he is associated with 72 demons. The idea is that he has made the human being, and the human being is therefore a representative physically of the 72 demons, or the 72 opposites of the 72 three-letter names of God, which are divine. If there are 72 three-letter names of God and divinity, there must be the exact opposite in demonic terms, and therefore there are 72 demons. And what the story of Solomon is really all about is dealing with your physical nature. That's all. It's about standing above spiritually your physical aspects, which were created by the creative principle. And he is associated, your body and him are associated with these 72 demons. See, so there's a lot in Kabbalah that explains, we can explain these things in modern terms using psychology and physiology, if we so wish. But we don't make that connection because this stuff sounds so weird and esoteric. Very few people actually get into demonology to find out what it's all about. But it's really just physical nature. Demonology, that's all you're looking at. So the idea that look at humans on earth, look at the way they're behaving at the moment. They're going to war with each other because some people are so self-righteous and bloody minded, you have to slap them in the face, otherwise they're going to run all over you. You've got to do something about it, and this is what creates wars all the time. People who are self-righteous, and they feel the need to make everybody agree with them, which is total insecurity. So we're dealing with psychology, human psychology, which is demonic because it's not perfect. When you acquire God and ascend, your psychology now becomes perfect because you understand truth. You don't need you no longer have insecurity. I no longer need to go out and explain things to people because I'm worried about how they understand things. I don't care if you don't want to listen to me. That's up to you. It doesn't bother me. I know what's what. I'm happy. You want to know? Fine, I'll tell you. But if you're going to pretend that you know better than me, I'm going to walk away from you. Okay? If anyone suggests that, I'll walk away because I know what's going on. You don't. I know that you don't know. I can see through you straight away. There's another thing that we have as angels. We can see through everybody instantaneously. I can see it instantly. I can hear it in your voice. Straight away, I can hear it in your voice, and I'll categorize everything about you and how close you are to the top of your mountain. I'll know how far you are up the mountain just by listening to you for half a second. Straight away, it's in your voice. It's in the vibrations of your voice. It's in your attitude, your body language, your demeanor, your approach to a conversation. Gives you away. Everybody gives themselves away, and only an ascended person, or someone very intuitive, can see this and knows this. But going back to this, in the world, we're dealing with human psychology, which is demonic, and you can see the result of it on the news every single day. And there's nothing but demonic activity on this planet, mostly, because spiritual people and divine-natured people do not go out and cause problems for others. You'll only hear in the news about people who cause problems, mostly.
They're not interested in making problems. That's not their purpose.
It's all the news is all about demonic issues on planet Earth. That's basically what you're seeing there.
That's a good summation.
Yeah.
I got another question here. That was Mr. Menza states that that's what I always thought, that is, Jesus was someone enlightened 2,000 years ago.
Yeah, may well have been. May well have been. I can't say. I wasn't there. Who knows? He may well have been around. Right. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, a lot of people who have near-death experience encounter somebody called Jesus, and he says, right, I'm Jesus. They know he's Jesus. So they may well have been somebody back then who has become somebody from the spirit realm who helps people on Earth. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
So what you're saying, I think this is, which just go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to add at the end that we're not talking about the Son of God with Jesus, the person. The Son of God is the cloud of heaven, not a person. Right. There's that distinction. We must understand that distinction. You can't say that the Son of God appeared on Earth 2,000 years ago. Oh dear, you missed him. What a shame. No, you can't talk to him. Well, how am I going to get into that if he was, 2,000 years ago? Does he keep coming back or something? Well, no, the Son of God is the cloud of heaven. It's not a person. Right. Oh, okay, so I don't have to worry about that. That's right.
Yeah, the question I had myself last night was simply, as I posed on Facebook, was that it's interesting that my thinking that, well, why did Jesus supposedly appear 2,000 years ago? What happened to the people, thousands and thousands and thousands of years in the past? Why would this happen at this junction? That's what I was trying to understand, if it was astrological tied in, or was it simply is that someone decided that it was a good way of actually supposedly tricking people to build a religion for themselves, and such and such. That's just my thinking. But why would, in other words, what I'm saying simply is, how many years? I mean, the other thing simply is, many people, I hear this almost continuously. The Earth is going to, we're going to destroy the Earth, such and such, and so this enormous fear, you see, and that's also not only by the media, but that's what people ruminate about. That's what they talk about, and in reality, simply they're wasting their lives on that, because that's taking their time away instead of actually pursuing the deeper things and looking for truth, you see.
Yeah, information is graded in terms of how important it is, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this worthy of my time? No, it's not worth it. Do I need to deal with this thing? And part of that also is part of growing up. You just basically tune out things and say, that don't mean anything.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's something I did. I thought, well, what has any meaning in life?
Right.
What is this meaning of life? Because what I did last week, everybody's forgotten. Nobody cares about that anymore. So, well, what means anything?
Yeah, it's just like it's just a movie ensemble always around, and the media is enormously involved in that to the point they talk about something 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and suddenly something else becomes primary, and then 6 days later or whatever, something else is primary, and it's just always and like
Always
this is all
shifting.
chatter. This is all chatter. It's
That's
just
right.
noise.
That's right.
It's a way to keep you caught up in these things.
Well, they are informing you, and it's not their
Yes.
job to teach you the truth, I guess. As such, the truth about reality, because they'll tell you that nobody knows, which is another problem with human beings. That everyone thinks that nobody knows anything, really. So they can't trust anyone. But that's another issue. But yeah, the
That is
media,
another one. Yeah.
the media is so noisy, so noisy. It takes up a lot of people's time, thinking time. It's
Mr.
important.
Menza has another question here. I thought there was records in India of Jesus visiting the missing years, age 12 to 30.
but it's right. But that's I don't trust Indians. I'd be very careful when you hear something from India. Indians, without deriding them, are renowned for lying and making things sound more than they really are. And I don't know whether that's a true ism, the idea that Jesus went there. Because if Jesus dies at 33, that is an esoteric concept. It's not a literal that he died at when he was 33 years old.
Right.
It would be almost impossible for somebody to ascend when they're 30 years old, for a start. The idea was that he ascended when he was 30, and he went on a ministry for 3 years before he was killed. Well, I can tell you, after ascension, you can't even open your mouth and say a normal sentence for the first week. You can't put words together anymore because your brain has literally changed. You cannot suddenly go out and speak the word of God. It takes quite a while for you to get to a point where you're able to speak. It took me a year before I went online and started talking about it. A whole year. That was along with that was the idea that I'd have enemies and that I'd need to prep myself for their attacks, because that's what you've got in this world. There's nothing but demons in this world who want to kill you for no good reason, because they don't like the fact that you're telling people the truth. And I've had that as well. So this idea that Jesus went instantly into a ministry because he met God and that's it, he's done. Now he can say anything, he can tell you everything about the truth, about reality. No, that's not how it works. And we don't have anyone to consult other than me to say, well, how does this actually work once you've ascended? What are you like afterwards? How many months does it take for you to put things together and understand things so that you can tell somebody else? When do you start talking in parables? When do you speak about this? When are you going to talk about that? Well, it takes time. I was getting insights for 4 years. That's 4 years before I was able to talk about them. And here they're saying Jesus was talking for 3 years and then he died. Right. That doesn't make sense. The whole thing is esoteric, or an esoteric recording relating to number 33. You have 33 vertebrae in your spine, notice.
Right.
This is and there are 32 beams coming out of a single cloud. So the cloud itself, the Son of God, is number 33. Right.
Yeah.
That's what 33 relates to, the cloud, not the beam.
Would you actually, Phil, reveal when you say 30? I know when I was 30, I was pretty naive even then. So I think you were talking about basically, you was talking about it's basically in your illustration that basically is approximately when you become 40, you begin to realize something's wrong here, something's not right. I don't know what it is. Yeah. And a lot of people explore that. Other people don't. It depends on what they choose. But the point is, if that is correct, then this would not make sense with the 30 and 33, so to speak.
Right. See, it's why I have an issue with all these.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I have an issue with all these literal interpretations. Every time one comes up, it's presented as if to say, "Look, Jesus really is a physical person." I think, well, hang on a minute. Why are you doing that? Because you don't really understand what's going on, do you? There's a constant wish to make Jesus a person.
Right.
Before. Always. I don't know why. This emphasis
Well,
on
is
that.
it also that basically, I'm going to say this, isn't it, well, God came down and he came to become a person here. He become a man, such and such. Now he's one of us.
Yeah, but that's just that's literally just the first key to heaven. That's all that's talking about. God comes down to earth. Well, God comes to you when you have your first key, when you have that meeting. That is God coming down to earth, effectively. And he literally came down when I met him. He was up in the sky at one point. I thought, what are you doing up there?
I'm not talking about that. I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about the whole mentality of people is that their idea simply is that God came down and presented himself in a physical form to say, I'm here, such and such, da da da. When reality, that makes well, God is really good to us. He's come down and become a person, such and such. And then that has also been used as a tool to fool people too, you see.
Yeah, it's also a misunderstanding. When you're talking about God, you need to be very, very poignant and specific, because it's very easy to go wrong with subtleties. Subtleties are very important, and discernment is very important here as well. So these semantics, God came down to earth and sacrificed himself for our benefit. You can say that God is with you all the time, and God is holding my hand all the time and is going through my experiences with me. That's true, because God is my true self. God is your true self. Of course, God is going through your experiences with you. Of course he is. He's there, right there with you all the time. That poem, Footsteps, about when you were having trouble. Look behind you. There's only two pairs of feet. And so one pair of feet walking. That was God carrying you, because God is eternal and forever and will never let you down, because God is your true self. That's why he's always with you, as it were, in these terms. It's semantics that gets to people.
Mr. Menzies said, "Thanks, Phil," and then he made a comment here. I don't get this one, but anyway, AI Johnny Cash singing Barbie girl is surely worth a listen, though. Whatever that is, I don't understand. That's beyond me. I guess he's talking about artificial intelligence or whatever. But anyway, so Mr. Menzies, thank you for being here. Also, appreciate the questions. Appreciate all that's been here in the audience. It's for me, what you share. Sometimes I feel like it just goes over my head, even because you made a statement here, which is really important. You say, kind of scary. You actually, when I speak or anybody speaks, you know where the heart is coming from. That is what type of you're judging me or da da da. No, I'm just saying. I'm asking. I'm saying basically that I don't get that from you, but I'm just saying simply is. So you're able to discern, which I believe you can do that, because simply is all your senses are available now. Everything's working, so you can sense that someone is actually out there to harm you.
Yeah,
and that is for your protection.
That's right. That's right. You see it straight away. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In other words, your rose tinted glasses are gone. You see everything as it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like the guy who you put on the glasses, and then saw all these other things, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. You remember that? I don't. Yeah.
That film,
type of thing. So if there's anybody else here, I don't think there's anybody. Well, there's still one here. I don't know if that's Mr. Menza or not. Again, like I said, there's we've been here for 2 hours, so.
Right. I mean, quick.
Yeah, 2 hours and 5 minutes actually. It's 1:05 here. So.
Wow. Okay.
So.
I'll eat.
Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Menza states, I guess this is his goodbye. Says, "See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. The fourth Monday being think no evil. Should we be a guardian to our thoughts?" That's a question.
I don't know. Guardian to your thoughts. Well, your thoughts don't really matter. You can think anything you like.
No, it's your actions that actually demonstrate. Yeah.
Yes, what you do about your thoughts that counts.
Right. I mean, I'll just ask this question because I think we talked about it once before. Yeah. But if I see a beautiful woman and I think about quote unquote and getting in bed with her such and such, that is my thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. Until I do something about it, it's not evil.
That's right.
So
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Yeah.
right.
It's just
But this
because
is
thoughts do lead to action. They suggest that it's the thought that's evil, and it's not.
that's what they stated to me as a child, a young person, your thoughts. So, I've struggled with this in my life myself
Mm.
with thoughts of this nature. And I'm like, no, I can't think this way. I can't think this way. So you're fighting what I would call something within your own mind. Although
Yeah.
there is quote unquote, there is the way we talked about this last week, I think also, the way women dress today are provocative,
Yeah.
meaning simply is as men are vision. This is actually the eyes are actually the man's sexual organ. Okay, let's just be quite honest. And
Yeah.
women know that, and
Yeah.
so they use that in order to entice a man and to could destroy him. You see?
Yeah. Can do.
Okay,
Can do. Yeah.
and so. But I remember simply is that they were talking about this in church or, in Sunday school, stuff like, what about your thoughts, such and such? You can't have those type of thoughts, such and such. And so this is the whole idea when you're as a child for me and others is simply for me. And I'm struggling here. So I'm battling this whole stuff within me. And I'm like, so I'm preoccupied with these, with all thoughts and thinking bad things and such and such. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what? And then it comes to the point, here it is. It comes out. It's like a whip. It's like, what are you thinking like that, Brent? Who are you? Who are
Yeah.
you? What are you thinking about? So then you
Yeah.
become what I call like Martin Luther begins to whip himself. You see, and so
Yeah.
you belittle yourself psychologically. That's what you
Yeah.
do. That's what
Yeah.
occurred with me.
That's right.
You're really not what you say you are.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
see how this works in a psychological way that causes a person to quote unquote to begin to destroy himself internally because I don't. You're trying to be good. You're trying to
Yeah.
do the right thing as a
Yeah.
supposedly Christian, and
Yeah.
then guess what? I'm having these thoughts,
Yeah.
and I'm
Nothing wrong
having
with
these
it.
thoughts over here. Maybe I want, such and such. But
Yeah.
until you do those things,
Yeah.
God doesn't call it, doesn't see that as being quote unquote evil. You
That's
see.
right. Yeah. You can
But
think
we've been
anything you
now.
like.
It's almost as I would say one more thing. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah.
But
No,
it's
no.
almost they put added burdens on you as a
Yeah.
child, as a young teenager, and all these things to this point simply is that is so detrimental to a person who's trying supposedly to live
Yeah.
a quote unquote righteous life.
Yeah. Free your mind means stop worrying about your thoughts. It doesn't matter. It's what you do that matters. That's what counts. What you do.
Right.
Yeah. Not what you
But
think.
I'm saying simply is that this only to the recent here, only a few years here recently, I just I have a friend who was talking about this. Says, well, you surely have changed. And I'm like, yeah, I have. And I want to continue to change. This is my desire. I don't want to play games here.
Yeah.
I'm getting old,
Yeah.
And so, but I'm saying simply is that this is how the church uses psychology to destroy their own people in some ways too. They
Effectively.
control them.
Yeah. Effectively. Yeah. I mean, even unwittingly.
Yeah, I remember a preacher coming to me and telling me, you didn't give any offerings such and such last week." I'm like, how do you know that? It's like, oh yeah, he knows that because this is a small church. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, you see that enormous, like it's like this monster over you. It's like, okay, I know what you're doing, such and such. Or you didn't come to church. What was the reason? Such and such.
Big brother.
Yes. All right. I worked late last night, second shift. I was a little tired. I didn't fall asleep. Plus, I go to school full time, and I'm also working full time. Well, you still seem to be here. You see that guilt, completely guilt, make you feel inferior to others.
Yes, you don't need to explain yourself. It's none of their business.
No, it's none of their business. But this is what goes on.
Yeah.
And you you said this so perfectly. As a child is innocent and is in the way it tries to love is basically give to such and such, and is actually doing that. And you're you're taught those things and you believe those things and you tried those
mm,
things even later in life, and you
mm,
say, well, something's wrong here, you know.
mm,
So you see this whole baggage type of thing, um,
mm,
and so how they prey upon you. And I don't mean
mhm.
pray, I mean prey on you,
Yeah,
type of thing.
yeah,
And so,
yeah.
but
It does happen.
anyway, I'm going to end the stream, but I want to ask you something else here. Can you stay here for a minute or two here, Phil, as I close?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Okay. I hope this thing works. We'll find out. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate you being here, and thank you for the questions. And I wish you a good day. And again, I wish you all you have eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart to understand. Thank you.